I'm Lourdes Pérez.
And I'm Dr. Annette Darmada, and this is the Voxfem Network. Today we have the immense honor and joy to have a conversation with Rauda Morcos. And we're going to begin with just telling you a little bit about her, and then we'll just get right into it. Rauda Morcos has a Bachelor of Laws and Master's in Law and Human Rights Law, part of the first program at the Emile Zola Chair for Human Rights. She has an academic background in universal linguistics and Hebrew literature studies and is fluent in 3 languages. Morcos is a leader and activist in queer, human rights, and peacemaking fields. She has led, represented, and managed organizations and initiatives, serves on numerous boards, and participates in global, regional, and local level to help promote and disseminate the messages she strongly advocates. Morcos currently works as a self-employed attorney, and she serves as the legal coordinator at Human Rights Defenders Fund. Since 2008 until 2015, Morcos led as regional and community organizer in the MENA region. In 2009, together with a group of activists, Morcos established Kam Mantikitna, a gathering of individuals with different sexual identities and concerning the sexual rights, gender, and sexualities. Morcos is a passionate and articulate political activist and poet from Pérez, a Palestinian village in the north of Galilee. Since 1993, she has been an advocate in women's and feminist organizations and anti-occupation movements. In 2003, Morcos co-founded together with 8 women the primary building blocks to initiate Aswat, a pioneer group of young Palestinian gay women that is working to legitimize an expression of women's sexuality through advocacy, education, empowerment, and outreach programs. Morcos became the general coordinator of Aswat in 2004 until the end of 2008. Morcos is an intensely progressive figure. She was the first Arab Palestinian woman to come out of the closet and assert herself publicly as a lesbian queer woman. Her courage and willingness to share her own self publicly is in itself a show of enormous support for all Palestinian gay women. She has, through her work with Aswat and Matkitna, put the issue of homosexuality and lesbianism on the Palestinian social agenda. She's the recipient of the 2007 IGL HRC's Felipa de Sousa Award. Rauda Morcos' quote is, "Being a minority makes you the majority of the ones who are being able to see the other. And this is the world to keep struggling for." Please welcome Rauda Morcos.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. It's great to
How are
see
you?
you.
We're
Good to see you
good. We're
too.
just going to have a light conversation today.
That's the idea.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time and for being a part of the Voxfem network. You're just another amazing, incredible woman, and along with other amazing, incredible women around the world that we hope to connect and keep amplifying. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rauda, as a Palestinian human rights lawyer working with Palestinians detained in occupation prisons, especially now in the context of accelerated genocide, in the context of widespread accounts from released detainees, as well as from Israeli doctors of horrific abuse of captive Palestinians. What can you share with us about your work and what you're witnessing?
Wow. You know, recently I was asked uh, something, I can't even remember the exact question, but it was like more about life that I'm having in Palestine and, the things that are happening since this war, that is the horrific war that we are going through as Palestinians and mainly in Gaza. And I started actually giving a timeline to that woman, really, the things I've been doing since I was a kid, even. And all the timelines that I gave her was mainly around a war. I mean, like, in 86, in 1986, the Lebanon War, I was, this age, I was living still in Korea, see, um, with my parents. The same year, I lost my grandma, my special grandmother, you know, and as I go up with the years, it appeared to me, it even shocked me to know that all the remarkable dates that I would actually put, you know, it would be about wars. The war on Lebanon, the war on Gaza, the war in the first Intifada, the second Intifada, the death of my father, the death of my grandmother, the death of my brother, the death of my stepfather, not stepfather, any other father. I mean, it doesn't mean that our lives as Palestinians are all about wars and losses, but it is a great deal in our lives as Palestinians, and how we experience wars. Among all that, there are the exceptional things, the dates where, for example, forming of the first lesbian Palestinian group in the MENA region, or what I call منطقتنا. منطقتنا means our region, as a rebellious uh, attitude towards the word Middle East, because we're not in the middle of anywhere or north of any place, or east of anything. It's just to actually tell the West we are called منطقتنا and not the Middle East. منطقتنا region, I mean, it's a very complex region, and Palestine is in the heart of that region. But as I also go through the checklist or the timeline, I would say, of my own life, my own personal struggle since I was born in this very intense area, there are also successes. The successes, like I would say of Aswat, formation of a group of queer women in the midst of the second Intifada, uh, and and also other successes, even personal ones, like just having the idea that I have my own child that I wouldn't even have dreamt of before. This is also a success for me. Maybe it's a personal tiny success, but it's still something to live for. Maybe the success of fighting cancer, or how people would look at me as somebody who had cancer in the past. I never saw it this way, but it's still a success in a way that I'm still alive. Um, so yeah, our region and our Palestine is a problematic area, filled with different um, hard moments. And this war specifically is different. I don't know, everybody that I have been talking to in Palestine would say the same, maybe, or would have said the same word. It's this war, there is something different about it. It's something more painful, maybe, or something that we should confess uh, to to ourselves. Like a friend of mine said to me a few days ago, maybe it's better that they conquer everything. The Israelis, we say, I mean, the Jewish people, the Jewish population. Maybe it's better that they conquer all of Palestine, because they maybe then we can visit each other without having to go through checkpoints, or having to go through a lot of interrogations. And maybe we should actually be accept that a reality that maybe would live under occupation, all of us, it's better than part of us. I mean, of course, she said it ironically, and we were like just not really thinking that we wish that. But amongst what's happening around us with the genocide and the number of killings, not only in Gaza but also in the West Bank, and even my work is focused in the West Bank. As much as I am connected to what's happening in Gaza, I am all the time dealing with what's happening in the West Bank, mainly about home demolishing, house demolishing, um, confiscations of properties, arrests, interrogations, a lot of aggression from these settlers, increased number of settling or settlements in the West Bank. Since the 7th of October, um, there is no law happening. The law is not existing. The order or the law order is not uh, functioning at the moment. It's very painful because a lot of people are losing their homes, losing their properties, they're losing their lives for no reason that I can actually uh, find. So yeah, even the worst nightmares or the worst things that your imagination could think of are happening. Um, I remember the first call that I received on my phone from my current work as an attorney of human rights lawyer working on a line, a hotline for callers to call asking for legal assistance. I thought I heard the testimony on the phone. I knew this possibility could happen, or I heard of it before, but I didn't know it's real until it happened to me. I heard it myself, of how settlements are being built, of how settlers are being torturing Palestinians. It was real to me more than ever that these things that we hear on the news are not only true, but I hear it from the, how do you say,
Firsthand.
first yeah,
Firsthand.
firsthand. And I didn't really know how to deal with it at the moment. For the first moment, I really didn't know what to do. Is it really real? What should I do? I mean, I even forgot what did I learn as a lawyer. Like my emotional response worked
Mhm.
immediately, not my professional side
Mhm.
and not my lawyer part. And Of course, it took me a while to adjust to the new reality, to the that this is my not only something that I should do as a Palestinian, but this is my job as a lawyer, what to do and how to help those people to give the best of what I can to support their struggle against occupation, against torture, against anything that is inhumane. So yeah, so this war is different. This war has made me even a different person.
So Rauda, that really kind of leads to the next question that we had, which is that interesting that you're saying that even hearing that testimony firsthand for you who's lived all your life and in this in Palestine, to just to hear something like that firsthand, seeing the footage out of Gaza and also the West Bank over these past 11 months, credit to Palestinian journalists and the young people, right, has meant that many around the world have understood for the first time the brutal reality of Israeli occupation that Palestinians have been reporting for decades. And but there is not as much coverage, however, of what Palestinians living inside the 1948 borders, what happens, what you experience. So as one of these Palestinians. What do you want to share about that particular experience? I think it's not as it still has not reached that kind of same critical mass to understand. You mentioned it in the beginning about your friend ironically saying, why don't we just, then we could visit each other, but we mentioned West Bank, Gaza. A lot of people are seeing the decimation of Gaza. What does it mean to live inside what's called sometimes 1948 borders?
Um, yeah, also, I always like to quote friends, and I was, and also to give them that credit uh, of saying remarkable words like what I said to you about this friend of mine, Ola, when she said to me, maybe we should be all in it together, So I really like, I mean, like the possibility. But also, my friend Rana said to me also last month, I saw her in Jerusalem, and she told me, listen, there is no Palestinian 48, there is no Palestinian in Gaza, there are no Palestinians in the West Bank, we're all Palestinians. Dot. I said, yeah. And she said, and there are no Palestinians in the diaspora, there are no Palestinians anywhere. We are all Palestinians, and we're not going to let anybody to put those borders between us. And I said to her, thank you, because that's what I wanted to hear all the time. We keep falling under these, I don't know, titles, Palestinians 48. I mean, of course there are differences. Of course there are massive differences. And what my grandmothers went through in the first Nakba in 48, quite similar to the second or the third Nakba that is happening now. I mean, of course, we're in a different era. We're in a technological era, so it's definitely the weapons are different,
Yeah.
the confiscations are different, the massiveness, the aggressiveness is different, but it's the same. And even for me, as somebody who is also working on research, so I told you a bit in the past about my work in the researching the British mandate, specifically prisons and prison visitors and the um, I mean the criminal justice field in the during the British mandate. It's not that different from the current occupation system. It's just the British people, and today we are dealing with the Jewish Zionists people. I mean, it's the tortures in the prisons are similar to the tortures in the Israeli prisons. It's not. I mean, and we are 70. How many years after? 78, 79? I don't know. 40 since 48. So I can't even do the calculations at the moment, but we're many years after, and we are in the same, for God's sake, system of occupation, of colonialism, of fascism, of apartheid, of torture. So for us as Palestinian 48, we're many years after, of course, the first Nakba. But we're also after many wars that happened. The Israeli system started to function officially since 67 after the military regime ended in Palestine, Israel. For many Palestinians within the borders of Israel, they start to have the freedom of movement after 48, and then in 50, 56, 54, 56, 57, until 67, the whole military regime ended and all the blockage around the Palestinian villages ended inside the borders of the so-called Israel. Many people doesn't know that. Many people don't know actually we exist. Many people don't know, they don't want to call us Palestinians. Of course, that's part of the Zionist project. They don't want to accept you saying, I am a Palestinian. And many internationals also don't know that Palestinians do exist inside Israel. They want to call you Arabic, Arab, because you speak Arabic. And of course, there is a political meaning to that, so that you would forget that actually Palestine existed all over that map that is now becoming tinier and tinier from year to another after building so many settlements, even in Area C and B and A. So in like 10 years' time, people even would forget that Palestinians existed at all. So yeah, therefore, I do insist we are Palestinians. I am an ancestor of many Palestinians who went through the Nakba in 48. And I still remember all the villages that were confiscated by all the Jewish settlements. And part of them are actually right near my hometown. Many Palestinian villages existed because they managed to pass through the violations of the occupiers and managed to resist the occupation. But the Galilee, which the part I come from, the Galilee was one of the most beautiful parts of Palestine, as we all could say, Palestinians, because it is the north of Palestine. It's full of mountains, it's full of green and a lot of beaches, most beautiful beaches. Of course, beside the beaches of Gaza and Jaffa and Yafa, or in Ascalon or other areas, of course, but the north has the combination of the mountains, the valleys, a lot of wadis, yani, streams, water ponds. So yeah, it is special. One main project that started by invading this area was putting a settlement between each Palestinian village. So between each Palestinian village and another, you would find another Jewish settlement. It was called actually Tahwid al-Jalil, Jewidizing the Galilee. That was one of the plans of how to actually divide and conquer Palestine. And I do see that every day. I do pass by those villages that used to be called this or that, like Bassa, uh, like Kwikat, El Kabri, many villages near that are now called kibbutz this or kibbutz that. For example, Betzet and Shlomi used to be Bassa. Kwikat is now Beta Emek. You know, and many other villages became invisible all of a sudden. People would pass by and actually would not really realize that that used to be a village of that person's grandfather or this person's grandfather. Some even Palestinians don't know that anymore. It's that difficult to that extent that many Palestinians everywhere don't even remember. Yet there are a lot of important projects that were made by many Palestinians like Walid al-Khaldi and many others to make us still remember those villages. There are many other, of course, projects that would give you the exact real name of each settlement inside Israel or anywhere else. That it was a Palestinian village, was confiscated that year. Uh, those families used to live here. They are now located in Lebanon. For example, most of the Palestinians in the Galilee either fled to Lebanon or to Syria or to other neighboring Arab villages. That's why in my village you would find a lot of people who are actually refugees from a nearby villages. So this is something I am committed, at least as a person, without, not because it's my job, it's just because it's my responsibility as a Palestinian is to, to keep telling this story so nobody will forget.
Yes. Thank you for that. I think that people don't know. People, everything is so accelerated, and the process of trying to get people to forget, and that leads me to the question here on what's going on here as well. And the question is how do alliances shift since October 7th? Many people here have gotten polarized. Some long-time activists have gotten quiet. Others have gotten completely hostile. There is a worldwide movement to stop the genocide, but world leaders are not listening. In the US, many are not holding the Democrats accountable for the funding of the genocide. At the same time, there seems to be a broad realignment of people. New, hopeful alliances are forming. This time has exposed what true friendship and true solidarity is and what is not. And you are at the epicenter. How has your experience been with your allies across the various movements you've been working for years?
Wow. Yeah. Well, of course, I started by telling you exactly how we live as Palestinian advocates. I mean, we are living inside the so-called Israel. We are part of the system, the Israeli system. I do get my salary into my Israeli bank account. I have to pay insurances and other taxes, everything like every other Jewish Israeli. Of course, the law is different in certain matters, not in everything. Luckily, I come from I would say, a very maybe aware home. I mean, I was raised by both parents who are very politically aware. I also was raised in a house that really have a history of resisting occupation and struggling for free Palestine. But at the same time, that war, I mean, for a free Palestine, that many Palestinians, like my father, felt that they failed. We failed that war. We lost Palestine, and we should admit our loss. And I don't know if I would live or your children would maybe live to have maybe see Palestine as a free country. Now, back to the question, the civil movement, we call the civil movement, like the anti-occupation movement or the feminist movement or the queer movement. Those are maybe the addresses or the names that I would think of allies. Okay. There's going to be always a question: to what extent can we go really like to what extent can we really find a common language? And I think this war, specifically this war, this Gaza war, with I think put a lot of people in a not in an exam or a test, but in a way, are you here or there? You have to decide. You can't be really in the middle because this is very clear what's going on here. I mean, I don't want to say it really rude in a rude way. I don't want to be really sound, but yeah, there are people I wouldn't actually want to communicate with after the 7th of October. I wouldn't want to have somebody in my life who wish for people to vanish or to die. I don't want to see or listen to someone who would really wish for my people, my own people, to be erased.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I did delete some people from my Facebook account. I really didn't want to see them anymore, that they are supporting the genocide or supporting Israel in so many ways. I do feel committed to tell everybody, even my family members, why we shouldn't buy this product, or why should we boycott that company, and why we shouldn't do this, because they are supporting the genocide, they are supporting the settlements, they are supporting what is happening in the West Bank. But these are the small steps that we can do as persons. Collectively, uh, there is always this challenge when it comes to working together as Jewish women and Palestinian women. I mean, after what's all happening around us, it's really difficult to work together if we are not really on the same track. There was an attempt for a feminist platform that started in December 2023, after especially the huge number of arrests of activists that are trying to say no to the war in inside the Israeli borders, mainly a lot of arrests towards also workers, Palestinian workers inside Israel, who have said something on their social media, or they had any expression expressed that could sound supportive to Gaza, or to the end of the war. Or, I mean, saying no to the war on Gaza equal you are a terrorist, equal you are supporting Hamas, equal. And so many people found themselves. I'm talking about hundreds of people, if not thousands, with no job after the October 7th, or the war on Gaza, on Gaza. Also, not only at work, students were expelled from universities. There were even blockades in some dormitory colleges. They actually blocked the dorms in some places to prevent Palestinian students to get out from the dorms. There were how many, like many lawyers, human rights lawyers, who were arrested just by participating in demonstrations against the war. Even a colleague of mine was arrested, and he is still facing indictment, and a lot of consequences of that arrest. Many people lost their jobs, their lives, their income. And I'm not even, I'm not comparing with what's happening in Gaza or in the West Bank, but I'm just trying to explain the legal system of Israel since this war. So that puts you in a situation that it's very hard to find allies, or you are actually criticizing the people you are living with in the same place, in the same area. And that will need a lot of courage from the Jewish side to actually do the lesson learned, and to actually admit the massacres we are all witnessing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a difficult situation to be in, I could imagine. So that attempt of the feminist space faced a lot of struggles. Um, we are still trying to find maybe a mutual language. I guess it is a bit difficult at the moment. In the queer movement, I haven't really seen any kind of allies happening. It actually shocked me to have seen pride parades happening in Israel after the October 7th. I mean, I wouldn't actually do a pride parade when there is a massacre happening right next door. But it's not surprising. The gay community, the international gay community, I don't know if it changed at the moment, or the Israeli gay community are not really against the occupation as as a, as a fact. Even in 2006, they tried to do an international pride parade in Israel when there were two wars happening in Palestine. One, sorry, inside Israel against Lebanon and in Gaza. And at the same time, there was a blockade in the West Bank. So they were also trying to hold an international pride parade. I mean, it's not that different today. Even though that I heard or I know of some queer groups, for example, queers undermining Israeli terrorisms in New York. I know of that group. I know of other queer initiatives around the world, like in Italy, in Sicily, in Spain, in Catalonia. You know, I know of some, and in South America. Um, um, So I'm aware of the number of queer activists around the world, or also that are trying to do some amazing work. Um, but yet the majority of the queer community, mainly the male
Main.
dominance,
Mhm.
the mainstream queer community is not really. They would do like I just even heard that there was an international cruise for queer people, mainly gay men. I mean, so I wouldn't really believe that they would be against the occupation or what's happening in Gaza if they're doing such a big cruise, really, instead of investing in ending the war in Gaza.
We see what you're seeing also as well. And I mean, there are class differences. There are different stratification in the queer community as well. But I do want to say that of all the people in our various, in the intersectional movements that we've moved in over 30 something years, 35 years, what has been remarkable to us is some of the strongest, most committed people from the beginning of this, well, from before, but even this exacerbation since October 7th has been uh, lesbian, gay, and trans people. And many people have like attacked and questioned that. Oh, they say, oh, you wouldn't be welcome. Well, we were welcome. That's we all know that you talk about this in, over your lifetime, that it's difficult to be gay all over the world, outside of big cities. There's this kind of way of wanting to paint a particular picture. But I do want to say that I don't know if it surprised me, but as I watched other longtime activists in other communities just become silent or fall off or not want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, the people who have been really putting themselves out there in our world have been lesbian, gay, and trans people who seem to me feel in their body the visceral reaction to what it feels like to be so thought of as so dispensable, as someone you could just get rid of, to annihilate, that your life is so worthless in that sense. And I think that sort of
Connection.
resonance,
Visceral
that visceral connection kicked in. Of course, it didn't kick in for everybody, as we're talking about. But
Hmm.
yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Um,
Yeah.
As we talk about international connections, you have spoken about the fact that the Arab culture is not monolithic, and that you feel a strong affinity with connection with Chicanas and indigenous peoples because of the shared experience of land theft and foreign occupation. Um, how does this understanding shape and inform your work and the way you are in the world?
I always say that, you know, those layer, those layers that you are made of, like, you know, we're like clay. We're people. We're like, we are actually clay. In the end, we will become clay back again.
mhm,
So we are shaped, you know, from layers and layers of different experiences. And those layers sometimes become part of you. And when you are a minority within a minority and within a minority within a minority, you know, those layers that go off of your skin makes you more maybe sensitive to the things that are happening around you and are able actually to feel uh, more um, with others. You know, you are able more, you have the, like, you become a super, super with superpowers to be able to see the others and to feel with them, even if they are not even part of your life. Uh, like, I'm sure that being a Palestinian with my Palestinian background and a feminist woman and a woman in a Palestinian community, in a very conservative community. The Arabic community is very conservative. Let's face it. I mean, um, it's a different. We have different codes of our society, and also as a lesbian, um, and now as a mother, even to be able to see simple things and to recognize it. Sometimes I feel like we are more like the Chicana woman or the Native Americans, um, similar to their struggle for recognition, um, more than um even neighboring Arab countries. Uh, because I sometimes feel like when, for example, if I bring my experience as a Palestinian 48, for example, to people in Egypt, I mean, I don't think they have the same struggle because they are living in their own country. It's Egypt, okay, and they have the Egyptian legal system, the Arabic language. There is no issue there of language, for example. Here, everything is in Hebrew. For example, for for example, my first travel to an Arab country was after the first, no, uh, was in something in around 97. After the first Intifada, I went to visit friends, queer friends in a neighboring Arab country, and I actually visited women who are considered queer. And that was the first interaction with Arab queers. I was extremely shocked for the first time I'm in a country that speaks Arabic. Everything is in Arabic. The signs are in Arabic. I was overwhelmed with this. I was very excited, you know, okay, regardless to the fact that I, I have a lot of criticism towards the Arab countries and the regimes and the but at the same time, it felt so cool to me that you feel home. Like if there is a game, like for example, a football game, you won't have a dilemma whether you support this group or that. Of course, you're going to be supporting your own country. I don't have that. I don't have a country, actually. I don't have a sport team. Um, even in that visit, I remember going to one of the Palestinian refugee camps in that country. I wanted to see how Palestinians are in the refugee. I didn't know what's a refugee camp in another Arab country, of course. I only hear about it. Because of course we have our own refugee camps. We don't really need to go to
Mm-hmm.
visit somewhere else. I mean, I just go to Mukhayyam Jenin, any Mukhayyam, Mukhayyam Aida. There are many, many refugee camps. But I was like in another Arab country, so I thought it would be different. It shocked me. I mean, I was shocked. I already had in mind that Arab people, I mean, neighbor countries, would be nicer towards Palestinians. It shocked me knowing that it didn't change anything. The Palestinian camp in Lebanon or in Jordan or in Syria, they all look, or even in Israel, so called, they're the same. People are living in an unlivable conditions, but still, I had this feeling of enviness that, yes, I wish we had Palestine. Yes, I wish we had a country. I'm not that, nationalistic really in that sense of a nation. I have to have a nation. It's just to have your own home without having any questions or any dilemmas or any problems traveling or questions at the airport or being treated differently because you're Palestinian. Or I don't want to live in an apartheid.
Yeah. Period.
I'm a human being. I want to live equally
Mm-hmm.
in my home.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have equal rights, regardless to my sexual orientation, political orientation, color, whatever. Um, so yeah, we are as Palestinians living in apartheid do have that dream of living in your own homeland, just because it's different, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It's different. You want to be free, free, free. That's a natural thing to want.
Yes.
So yeah, after coming back from that Arab country, that was really the my first, let's say, journey to think of forming an entity. I didn't know how it would look like to find those queer women. Where are they? Like in Palestine, where are they? I mean, I really didn't want to go through Israeli organizations because they existed.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to speak Arabic. I wanted to speak with only Arab women. Where are you? How to look for you? How to find you in such complexity? Uh,
And that
and
that's uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
No, that actually it really leads to the next thing we wanted to say and to ask you is that because we first learned of you and your work in the early 2000s when you were part of forming Aswat, when you were looking for where are the Arab gay women, and so you formed Aswat and became a very visible like the voice in many ways to bring people to that group, and it was the only group at that time for Arab gay women. And we wanted to say that, like every woman on earth, you have to fight for your existence in the context of patriarchy. And as a Palestinian, you have to fight for your existence within the context of an imposed occupation. In history, you will always be a person who was steadfast in demonstrating that liberation of all oppressed peoples are linked. You will always be remembered for that, Rauda. At
Thank
this
you.
moment,
Really.
yes,
Thank you.
we appreciate you. At this moment, 20 years later, and in the context of everything we've talked about today, what does two-spirit LGBTQ activism look like? Is there even space for it to exist in this moment with all of Palestine under escalated threat of annihilation? What does that look like now?
Wow. I can't even start to imagine how it would be for someone who is, now in Gaza or in the West Bank and struggling in the current situation, also and struggling for other liberations. Um, but I'm sure, like as I know some of my friends, they are focused on the day to day to do as much as they can to support other Palestinians going through this war. I know of other activists in Gaza who are doing their maximum. I'm sure not even the maximum. I think it's the over expected maximum,
Mhm.
uh, just to support other Palestinians in the unlivable situation they
Yeah.
are in. But I can imagine that it's not easy for anyone, you know, regardless to their sexual orientation. This war is inhumane. I mean, I even didn't think how it's difficult for women now in these days in Gaza. I didn't occur to me to think of like just for a simple thing, how to go to a loo, to toilet, to use the toilet. I mean, we women need a specific way of going to a toilet. I mean, it's not
Mhm.
like just being anywhere.
Yeah.
Uh, just thinking of women in Palestine at the moment in Gaza, how are they dealing with the current situation when there is one toilet, for example, for hundreds of people, and they can't flush because there isn't water? I mean, if they have period, if they're pregnant, if they're like, so
Yes.
if they're gay or lesbians, I mean, it would be different. It wouldn't be different. It wouldn't be different. It's just so hard to imagine how people are actually coping with with all what's happening. Now I know in the context of oppression, like linking oppressions, because I believe we cannot be free as women if we're not free as queer and Palestinians. Freedom has no limits. You cannot be free as a woman and not free as a Palestinian, or not free as,
Mhm.
we have to link those uh, things together because we are a whole in the end. Uh, all the time when I worked in Aswat, I didn't know really how, I never experienced myself as I did something out extraordinary, because this is the way people actually take you here as, okay, you worked in Aswat, perfect, you did this. Um, and usually, there is a saying in Arabic, لا نبيا في وطنه. There is no prophet in their homeland. I mean,
Mhm.
always a pioneering person will be always criticized by their own people. And I'm not that different. Um, so, but I remember one day I was organizing a meeting for Palestinian queer women from Aswat,
Mhm.
and some activist women from Lebanon, also queer, and I hoped it will be happening in Amman because this is the only country we Palestinian can travel to, or Egypt, but it's far. But it's far. So I thought like Amman, it's a great idea for us as Palestinians and for Lebanese women because it's just, crossing the borders. I Okay, the first attempt failed because there was one of the women from Amman, from Lebanon, are coming that was coming. She was originally Palestinian with Palestinian documents, and I didn't know that for Palestinians in Lebanon, they have to go through hell, literally through hell, in order to travel to Amman. It's easier for them practically to travel to Cyprus than to Amman. I felt like a dumb, honestly, I felt illiterate at that moment, as if I didn't know the history of Palestine. And I told her, listen, I really apologize, but what's the difficulty? I mean, what's the problem? And she said, well, Rauda, we have a laissez-passer. We don't have a passport. Like the Palestinians in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem, they have laissez-passer. They have to go through a lot of bureaucratic matters. But if I, as a Palestinian from Lebanon, travel to Amman, I can easily cross the borders and come to Israel, I mean, to Palestine. So officially, I actually practiced the right of return. And that's no way it's gonna happen. No way to let a Palestinian have the right of return. I said, so Israel and Jordan and Lebanon have an agreement on that? I mean, how did it, like, who thought of that, for God's sake?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this attempt failed. We had to go through an international country and do that meeting in another country, and we did it. I didn't attend that meet. I just organized it. The second meeting we did with that group that officially came. It was first of all with Hilim Banat, and then after that they actually met with Aswat women, and they formed a meme group in Lebanon, and we had another conference meeting with them in Amman, and that really succeeded in the end. We managed to get there, but of course with no Palestinian participant from Lebanon because she wasn't a part of the group anymore. She was actually abroad, so it was only Lebanese women. But while I was doing that meeting and planning it, working on the logistics, I called a place in Amman owned by women. I called, asked, this is Rauda from, Palestinian. I got the number from a friend of mine who told me to call you because you might be offering your place for a meeting. You are, and that's the answer I got. You are Rauda Morcos, the Rauda Morcos? I said, Rauda Morcos from Palestine, I mean. And she said, Rauda Aswat? I said, yes, yes, Rauda Aswat. And I told her, like, do you know me? Like, very, very shocked. How do you know me? How do you know me? She said, we all know you. Everybody knows you. I mean, everybody in the region knows about you. I said, what? Like, how? And she said, well, we have a media, we have social media. I mean, like Rauda, everybody is, could, and you did something that put a lot of courage in many of us. I said, wow, that's for me enough to know that at least I influenced one person in my whole life, or at least encouraged her, and that's enough for me.
Many more than
And
one.
Yeah, I mean, really, I didn't know that the influence is there,
Mhm.
in that crossed the borders. I didn't know, I didn't have a clue it was crossing the borders. And actually, that was really my next plan after Aswat, to really do something that crosses all the borders. That I don't want those borders anymore.
Mhm.
And that was really the plan of doing something in the region, in Mantiqitna. And luckily, it did happen. And we crossed those borders uh, with Mantiqitna camp. And that became, after that, the Mantiqitna network. Um and since then, I know that the region, our region, Mantiqitna, is very alive in the number of activists and the number of initiatives, different kinds of initiatives, very, at least, um, I would say, uh, creative. Like, it's not a copy paste. We cannot copy paste anyone. And our region is different. We know all, at least, that we have different social codes in different countries. So you have to adjust in a way and find your own ways of liberation.
Yeah,
And
yes.
I really like that, which I really admire, the creativity that in other Arab countries, for example, how they initiate things and how they do their activism. It's not like in other Arab countries. There are a lot of various
Mhm.
ways of doing social change. Um, and of course, when I say it's a region, one region, but we are many languages in that region. We have different social codes, different even letters. We have the Amazigh, we have the Berber, we have the Moroccans, the Tunisians, the Algerian, Libyan, Yemenites, Egyptian, Levant area is even, as much as we can see it as one, it's different.
Mhm.
Syria is different than Lebanon, and and the tensions between each countries. Yeah, but I know that that work we establish in the world, it's not ours. It's not ours. It's
Mhm.
not mine. It's something you start. You can't have ownership on it. You don't know
Yeah.
how it goes, how it continues.
Yes. Mhm.
And our, how do you say, when you put one stone in a building, others would put their efforts. Somehow we unite in at least the one idea that we want liberation and freedom from from all kinds of oppression.
Yes. What beautiful words and what beautiful legacy. And it's an honor to see that legacy in the making and the fruit of that in the midst of everything that's going on and the horrors that are happening right now. Um, it is also a such a gift to have you here and your clarity and your historic stance. Is is beautiful and is inspiring. So
Thank you.
thank you.
There are many ways to fight. There are many ways to resist. There are many ways to create, and you have been a part of that and continue to be a part of that. And I think, yeah, I just want to say thank you also for being a part of
Thank
this.
you.
Yes. So we have been speaking today with Rauda Morcos. I'm Dr. Annette Darmada,
I'm Lourdes Pérez.
and this is the Voxfem Network.
Thank you. Shukran.
Thank
Shukran.
you.